That's Holiday Road by Lindsey Buckingham, late of Fleetwood Mac, who actually are coming back together again with the entire cast of musicianal characters. So good on that. I figured there was a fun little song to start off today's episode. Hello and welcome to brand new episode of Dylan Knows. It is episode 244, and I'm glad you're here. Today is another solo show. It's been a weird weekend, but pretty good. As you can see, there's per the name, under renovation, there's a little bit of changing going on in my basement. See, if you've been watching the show, this side over here always has a whole bunch of shit on it. This side had some, but now it's been switched because we are doing some renovations in here. Actually, the renovation started on Friday, where we got our brand new air conditioning unit, which, thank God, if you watched last week's episode, you saw how freaking hot it was, and how hot I was, really. But Friday they came, they installed a air conditioner that's like double the size of the one we had before. And it took about, they came about 8:30, they left about 4:30, so I guess it's a nice 9-hour job. I mean, I figured they had to put some new ductwork in, they had to do a new line through here, which they did. You can't see it in the back, but there's a new panel back there, which is where they put the piping in. And then they put a new touchscreen thermostat, which is great. So 4:30 came, and it was almost about an hour before we had to take my son to his dance recital on Friday. So they came, they talked to us and showed us around, and they cranked up to 70 degrees, and gradually you could feel the humidity and the heat dropping as the air conditioner was starting to pump its air throughout there. So then we left to go to my son's dance recital. And by the time we came back about 8:30, it was nice and chill in the house. And upstairs took its time, but upstairs for the first time in probably 10 years. I've lived here 14 years. It's been nice and cool upstairs also. The reason why I think that it wasn't nice and cool upstairs is because, first of all, cold air sinks. So all the cold air here in the basement is where it's the coldest part. But when you go up to our second level of our house, the cold air is having trouble getting out there. So when you have a small, old 18-year-old air conditioning unit trying to spew out air conditioning, your main levels are okay, but when you get up to the upstairs level, just because of the insulation, the heat, and heat rises, stuff like that, it's really warm up there, even during the summertime. So we always had fans put on in there. Even if we had the air conditioner running, we still put fans going in there. And even when the kids were younger, it was so bad that we actually bought window units to go in addition with the central air we had going. So just a lot of different things, but now their rooms feel good. Our bedroom feels good. So now we're happy, and plus got a surprise, but in retrospect, now I think about it, it probably makes a lot of sense. They also put in a new heat pump, which now I wasn't told they were going to do, but it didn't increase the amount of how much it was. When the guy came in to do his estimate, he said it's going to cost A. And I just saw it was for the air conditioning unit. It's like, okay, he didn't say you're going to need a heat pump. He just said, yeah, you need it for your air conditioning unit and the new piping and new machines, because there's two. You got the condenser in there, and then the actual machine out there. So they said, it's going to cost this much, and then sure enough, when they were going over the bill, the price was the same that they had quoted, and they added a heat pump. So that's good, because that's one less thing we have to worry about now, because our heat pump was just about the same age, 18 years old. But I guess it makes sense, as they're sort of on the same machine, I guess. As you know, I'm not technical, so I don't know crap about anything. But the fact is, we have a new heater also, and now they're going to come out also every year, twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. Springtime, they're going to check on the air conditioner, make sure it's up and running, make any adjustments they need to keep it running smoothly. And then in the fall, they'll check on the heater and make sure that that's all good as well. And it's only going to cost $189 just for the year to do those two visits, which is not bad at all, to have someone come out and do maintenance on it twice a year, because that means I don't have to, and I don't have to worry about in another 18 years having to pay another exorbitant amount, because let's face it, I'm going to be 45 later this month. 18 years makes me 63 years old. So, and I'll probably still be living in this house with my wife. So, God, just think about that. In 18 years since my air conditioner was put in and just got replaced, if you had an additional 18 years, I'm going to be 63 years old. It just seems so wild, because I'm 45 this year, June 20th, by the way. So here we are, June 3rd, 17 days of my birthday. So yes, Also, though, 18 days till first day of summer, but summer should be a lot better now because we got the new air conditioner, which is freaking awesome. So that was the main reason why I named today's episode Under Renovation, because that was the big story for me this weekend. And at the same time, two other stories I'm going to connect to it as well. I just lost my viewer. They're like, oh, God, are you going to talk about anything else? My gutters, which I had never cleaned before because, first of all, we don't have a giant ladder. And second of all, I don't want to clean gutters. Fuck that, you know? But we hired somebody to come out because there was one spot in our front of our house where I think there was a problem, because whenever it would rain, usually pretty heavy. If it was a steady rain, not so bad, but if it was really, really heavy rain, which we've been getting a lot lately, there was literally like a waterfall in front of our doorway. So when you're trying to get back in to the house, you got to go through this waterfall, and it's a pain in the ass. So we finally, since I was going to be home anyway all day Friday for the air conditioning, said, hey, why don't we just call and get the guy to clean out the spouts. So like, okay, that's fine. So I went and he came and he cleaned it out. And luckily enough, that night and then into yesterday as well, we had some heavy rain, and we're looking, is like, yeah, there's no waterfall. So that's exactly what happened. So that's pretty cool. So, and it just seems rather odd though, because I mean, I guess with wind and stuff like that could work, but we don't really have any trees around us. We had to cut our tree down a couple years ago because it had a disease, and at that point there wasn't any leaves on it anyway. And there are no real big trees around us. I mean, there's some across the street and maybe some behind us. And I guess, you know, as I said, wind picks it up and it rolls down the hill and stuff like that. But I don't really recall a lot of leaves in there. So I don't know if it's just was leaves. The guy just said he cleaned it out and then ran water through to make sure it worked fine. It did. So he said this was the only area that was obstructed. And that was the one area that we knew was obstructed, so that was good. So he did that. And then we were going to try to get an electrician out because there appeared to be something wrong with our panel in there. One of the circuits, whatever, is remaining red, and that just happens to be the circuit where the dishwasher was. And dishwasher hadn't been running for like 3 or 4 days, so we thought, okay, great, there's something wrong with that. But then the weirdest thing happened. Last night during the thunderstorm, our lights started to flicker a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the dishwasher came alive. It was like, alive, and started running, even though there was nothing in it. So we had to pop it open so it wouldn't run. And we had just hand washed all of our dishes. So we're like, okay, you know what? Let's just test this now. So we put all the dishes that we had just washed in the dishwasher, closed it, and it ran through the cycle. And this morning when we got up, the clean dishes. So we got to clear those out. It was literally every piece of our silverware except for our big spoons, which we don't really use all that often. Literally all our forks, all our knives, all our smaller spoons were all in that dishwasher that we had just hand cleaned also. So that was exciting. So we're going to wait and see how this goes. I'm not exactly sure if we need to replace the breaker. More like we might probably need to replace the dishwasher. So Under Renovation is still going to be around for the next couple of years because we got to replace that. We got to replace our refrigerator. We got to replace the washer dryer down here. We're probably going to have to replace the water heater soon because they're all old, and old things, they break down. You know, there's not much you can do about it. Cars, same thing. We're going to need to buy a new car or two because the cars we have are old and are breaking down. And, you know, we've got other stuff we need to do. We probably need to get new carpeting because we have so many disgusting pet stains and dirt stains down here that it's disgusting, and there's really only so much you can do. We need to clean out our basement. We need to get things organized. We need to do some drywall. The joys of home ownership. We need to resod our yard. All kinds of fun stuff. But as of now, though, I'm excited because we have a brand new air conditioner. We have a brand new heater. And we're going to have a company that's going to come out and service them every year, twice a year. And that's going to make things a whole lot easier. They're more efficient. They're going to be more cost effective. So yay on us. But that's just the beginning. We still got a ton of stuff we got to do and a little time to do it, which sort of puts my wanting to open a coffee shop sort of in the background, because if I really want to, but at the same time, it's not something you can just say, I'm going to open a coffee house and just go and do it. It's going to cost a lot of money, and you got to pay that money back. And I've been reading different things, and I don't know if I could handle doing that. So I'm sort of on the edge again about if I'm going to if I'm going to open my coffee shop or not. So we'll see what happens. So right now I'm just sort of in a holding zone when it comes to stuff like that. So, but that's enough of that. What do we got going today? We're going to talk a little bit about my son's dance recital, which I discussed briefly. some lawsuits, two closings close to my heart that are really upsetting to me. Ellicott City, ear nails. Yeah. Rob Liefeld, Katie Seagal, Policeman, Food, Science, Glitter. We got all kinds of great things. Coke, not cocaine, Coca-Cola. So we got all kinds of great things going on. So, and The Walking Dead, which I think we'll start off today's episode with The Walking Dead, because in the last week, there have been a ton of Walking Dead stories. They've been starting to film the new season, season 9. Now, for those who've watched the show before, they know that I used to be a huge Walking Dead fan. And then about halfway through this season, something happened. I didn't catch it, and I put it on. I DVR'd it because there's something going on. And from that point on, I never got around to rewatching it again because my life just started getting really, really busy into last year into this year. So I've got the remaining season on DVR, which I haven't even looked at yet. And then hearing about all the stuff that happened on it, I was like, you know what, I'm not really sure if I really want to watch it, because they're now deviating from the source material immensely. And then with this new announcement of what's the news I'm getting ready to tell you, it makes it even more like, is this the death throes of the show, which started off so strong and is still fairly strong, but lately has been suffering and has been a little bit more of a hit back from people on the internet. We'll see, but everyone out there probably knows the big stories. The biggest one is that Andrew Lincoln, this is his last season on Walking Dead. He is the main character, Rick. And that totally blows everything away because Rick is still going strong in the comics. But you're not dealing with comics, you're dealing with actors. And that's what I truly believe this is all about. I believe that Andrew Lincoln has been playing this character for 9 years now. He's a British-born actor. Not that that makes any difference, but he's an actor. And there are a lot of actors out there who, and you can name a bunch of them, who don't like being pigeonholed into one role, or they don't want to have most of their career tapped up in one thing. So let's take a look at what Andrew Lincoln has to do. Filming of Walking Dead takes from about, I don't know, March or April till about sometimes August, sometimes September even. So March to April, April to May, May to June, July, August. It's about 6 months of filming. And yes, while the character is the same, that's the thing. That's also the thing. The character is the same. I mean, he might go through some situations and differences and things might happen to him, but you're playing the same character 6 months of your year. That leaves you 6 months to do other stuff, which really isn't a lot of time to do other stuff. And there's only so much you can do because your character has a specific look that you need to keep up. So a lot of times actors, they like to be challenged. They want to do different roles. They don't want to be pigeonholed as one character. I mean, that's why Chris Evans is leaving Captain America after Avengers 4, because he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as playing, being this Captain America type. He wants to do other stuff. Snowpiercer was a good example of way of him trying to destroy his ghosts. So he wants to do some other stuff as well. He's an actor. That's what they want to do. I mean, and that's fine. That's what a lot of actors, as I said, they want to find new challenges. They want to find new characters. They want to do different things. And I'm sure Andrew Lincoln, I don't even know if he's even been back to England since. He might have stayed in America because he has to. And he hasn't had a chance to go like on stage, because it takes time to do theater as well. You've got to do rehearsals. You've got to memorize the script, and then you got to do the runs. You got 2-3 runs a day, and then 5 days, 7 days a week, and you need a break sometimes. So you can't consistently be doing this. You need a little breather. You need to see your family and stuff like that. So I think in the end, after he films this season, he's going to be very happily going back to England. He's going to be taking on new challenges. I wouldn't be surprised if he did some more theater over in England, taking on maybe new roles in movies that he's had to turn down because he couldn't fit in the timing of The Walking Dead. And then maybe, he might find a new role on a British TV show, because British TV shows are different than American ones. They're usually about 6 episodes long, and their seasons are like once every 2 years. So you do a set 6 episodes with a story at the beginning, middle, and end. and then you're done for like 2 years, and then you come back and you do another 6 episodes. And it's a way to generate excitement for the show and wanting to see it and get new creative juices and ideas. Now, yeah, there are some shows that, kind of break that mold a bit. Doctor Who, they usually do it yearly, but sometimes there's those month changes because, the new series is supposed to start to like this fall, not even this summer, this fall. And the last season, notwithstanding the Christmas episode, was last fall also, the beginning of it. So it's been almost a year before they come back with a new season. Usually you think about it, a TV series ends in May and comes back in September. That's only like a 3 to 4 month, let's see, May to June, July, a 4-month window, not a year like Doctor Who is. So now, granted, this is going to be a different year of Doctor Who, which I'm extraordinarily excited about, but that's for a discussion for another day. So Andrew Lincoln's gone, and then the thing that drives me absolutely bonkers now there's people who are putting up, what do you call those things? They want to sign to say, a petition to get Andrew Lincoln to come back and stay on board with Walking Dead. He wasn't fired. He's leaving of his own accord. He does not want to do the show again anymore. So your petition is, like most petitions, really, to be honest, is pretty useless. Yeah, it just seems odd that people are creating these petitions to keep an actor on a show who doesn't want to be on the show. He wasn't fired. Now, if he was fired, that's a different story. I mean, this whole thing with Roseanne, which I'm totally behind because of Roseanne is a disgusting human being. But the fact is there are petitions out there to get her to come back or get Fox to pick up her show or whatever, to go with the Tim Allen show. So Fox can continue being the conservative nutcases that they are. And that might just lost my viewer. No, he's still there. She's still there. Good. I'm not going to get into that either. I did that all last week, and that's why I only had 3 viewers on my show. So I'm going to try to not talk about anything political because I don't like doing that. So he's not coming back. He doesn't want to come back. If they don't kill his character off, if they want to bring him back for the final episode or whatever, I'm sure he'd be open to it, but he doesn't want to do any more episodes. So it's kind of useless to do this petition. I'm sorry. You just got to move on. Now, if he was fired, that's a different story. So what's the other big news? Now, we also know Laurie Cohen. The big news broke like a while back that she was filming a pilot for ABC. And that led everybody to believe, oh, Maggie's going to die in season 8's cliffhanger or whatever. But you have to understand how pilot season works. She's filming a pilot. So it's 1 episode, which introduces the characters, the storylines, and what you're going to see, and gives a setup for maybe some possible stories if you get picked up. And that's the thing, you have to get picked up. So then they make a pilot. It's 1 episode, and they ship it off to the ABC brass or whoever, NBC, CBS, Fox, FX, whoever. They watch the pilot. They watch a bunch of pilots. They watch hundreds of pilots. And then they sit and they discuss each one. And they say, okay, we're canceling all these shows. We need to replace them with this many shows. So which of these pilots, say 50 pilots, and we need to replace 10 shows just to make it easier. Which ones are we going to do? What do we think is going to be the next big thing? What do we think is going to get people's attention to come back to ABC? What is different? What is something that, people might not have seen before, or an actor or actress who just is killing it, or the chemistry, the character, whatever. So they look at all these pilots, and then they vote, and they say, okay, we want this one, this one, this one, this one. So they pick 10 out of the 50 pilots that they've watched. And then they go and say, all right, we're going to pick up your show. You need to get your characters together. You need to get us 22 episodes, 20 episodes. We're going to pick it up for 13 episodes, 18 episodes, 20 episodes, whatever. And you're going to be slotted here. And so it gives them, the producers and showrunners, a chance to, okay, we're going to have to, guess what? We've been hired. Tell the actors, you guys have been hired. We're going to series. We're going to be, you got to start working for us in a couple months. Well, we have to get the episodes up and running. We got to get all the behind the scenes stuff, the pre-production stuff. We got to get directors lined up, writers lined up, sets lined up, crew lined up, So it takes a little bit of time. So they picked up Laurie Cohen's pilot, which means her series that she did the pilot for is going to series, which means, honestly, I guess there's some rule, I guess, where you can't be in two series at the same time, because that would actually, sometimes the filming would overlap, and that wouldn't be fair to the actor because they would be working constantly, and the characters might be different, changed. So most of the time, if a pilot gets picked up, the other character is going to have to leave their show. And so Laurie Cohen apparently, since she's already started work on the new season of Walking Dead, she's only going to be like in half the episodes. And then after she's done her filming, she's gone, she's leaving the show, and she's going to do her new show on ABC, which again is good for actors. She's been doing the show for 8 years. Actually, technically, she came in second season, so 7 years. She's getting tired, and the storylines are hard, and it's a lot of hard work. She wants to try something different, so she's moving on to do that, and that makes sense. That's what she wants to do. So Laurie Cohen's only going to be in half of season 9. So now there's rumors that they're going to kill her off, they're going to kill Rick off. Now here's the thing, you do not have to kill either of those characters off. You really don't. Would it be not beyond what The Walking Dead would do? Sure, they're probably going to kill one of them off. Or you could just say, you know what, we don't have to kill you off. We just have to get you to leave, you know? Maybe Maggie at this point is so tired of how Rick's reaction to Negan, since Negan's going to still be alive and he's going to be trying to get integrated into the new community, that Maggie's just like, you know what? I don't like this. He killed my husband, the father of my child, and my child is not going to have a father. And it's all because of this asshole. And you're trying to make him become a member of our community? That's bullshit. And then that might be enough for Maggie to say, you know what, F you guys, I'm leaving. And then she can leave. Never to be seen again. She doesn't have to come back to these assholes, unless, again, she wants to come back for the last episode and make a cursory appearance. Say, hey, here's my baby. And then the end, boom. Or kill Negan if that's if she's going to be if that's how they're going to go. I don't know. But they can do that. They don't have to kill these characters off. You can have her just say, you know what, F you guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to find greener pastures. I'm sick of this place. I've heard of it. I'd rather go, live back out in the country, or I want to go, traveling someplace, or maybe they're going to introduce a new area, something like that. She's going to integrate into that, but they're not going to be a main part of the series. So you're not going to need to see that. So, and then with Rick, there have been talk for like the last 3 seasons that this is Andrew Lincoln's last season. So he's been talking about it probably for the last 3 years. And now he's finally going to do it. So then you always get the same stories. Is Rick going to die, or how Rick is going to die and stuff like that? Again, you don't need to kill Rick off. Of the two, he's probably the one you're going to kill off, because he is the leader, the head man, the guy who's been in every episode since, well, not technically every episode, but has been in it since the beginning. He's one of the only remaining ones. Him, Norman Reedus, and Carol are the only ones who have been in from the first season that are still left from the first season. So he's on his way out. So he'd probably be the most obvious choice to get killed in some way or form. But again, I'm sure there's probably some way you can get him to depart. He can pass on the mantle of leader to either Negan or Norman Reedus, and move on from there. Or you could fall in love with a woman and you decide to move out to greener pastures. Say, you know what, I want to have my happy ever after. I'm sick of all this death and destruction. Carl's dead. There's no reason for me to hang out with you guys anymore. I'm leaving. And he takes off. More than likely, though, he's probably going to be killed in some shape or form. Not the funniest thing, probably one of the most interesting ways of killing him off would not be from a zombie or one of the bad guys killing him, just something as simple as he's got cancer, or he's got a disease or an infection or something that runs its course and kills him. That would be more of a shocking end to me for Rick than him going down guns blazing against the zombie horde or against the new big bad, whoever that may be. I just think it would be interesting to, after all this talk of him, surviving all this long period of time and keeping the group together, something that he can't control, like cancer, takes him out. I think that would be interesting. But again, probably not going to happen. Because who wants to watch your main character degrade from cancer when you can have them go out guns blazing against a bad guy or zombies? Well, and speaking of Norman Reedus, now that Andrew Lincoln has said he's going to be leaving, Norman Reedus' character is going to have to pick up the slack a little bit, or so people are expecting him to. So Norman is doing what he should do. He's saying, well, then I want $20 million to do it. And to be honest, you know what? If you don't pay him, he's going to be like, I'll do his last season too, but I'm out of here also. That's what they do. Actors, they act for acting's sake sometimes, but also sometimes they want to get that big check as well. And of course, Norman's going to start needing that big money now because he and his girlfriend, Diane Kruger from National Treasure fame, are pregnant with their first kid. So he's going to need to have all the money he can to take care of his kid and his new impending family. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Norman Reedus can say, oh, I'm going to do my own motorcycle show. And if AMC says, well, if you're not going to do Walking Dead, we're going to cancel your motorcycle show, I'm sure he could ship it to somebody else. And they'd be like, hell yeah, we want Norman Reedus on our station. And they'll get it like Discover or any of these places. They'll say, hell yeah, we'll get him on there. He can do a show there. So he's holding all the cards, actually. So is Norman Reedus going to get $20 million? Yeah, they might be able to negotiate him down because that seems to be a lot. But the fact is he's going to have to start doing more because he is the more popular character now that Rick is going to be on his way out. And Negan still has that potential to be a popular character, but Norman Reedus has 9 years on him. So, you know, you've got that, and that's what everybody talks about, is if he dies, we're going to riot, you know, stuff like that. So we'll see. So good on Norman Reedus for getting that big payday, and good on him on getting his girlfriend pregnant. So so that's good. So I think that's all the Walking Dead news I got for today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Solo. Now, I haven't seen Solo yet, and this is driving me a little bonkers right now. And it just goes to show the people out there are, and this isn't a surprise because I've known this for a while, but there are some people out there who are absolute haters who just don't understand business tax or whatever. Solo made close to like $100 million in its opening weekend. I think it made 75 here in America and an additional 25, 50, whatever overseas. So it opened lighter than any other Star Wars movie. And all of a sudden they're saying it's a flop. Just because it didn't make over $1 billion doesn't necessarily mean it's a flop. I mean, let's face facts here, people. Have you learned anything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not all of their movies have made $1 billion. Now, most recently, their last two have. But until that point, you know, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Guardians 1, I think, didn't make $1 billion. You know, Iron Man 3, you know, all these, you know, there's been a bunch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that have not even touched $1 billion. And yet they're not considered a flop, despite the fact that it has hit over $1 billion multiple times in their series. Now, with Star Wars, you know, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi have made a lot of money. And I think Rogue One made a good amount of money, but I don't know if it made as much, obviously, as Force Awakens or Last Jedi. And I think a lot of this hatred has to do also with the fact that a lot of people are divided over The Last Jedi. Now, I have some issues with some of the story plots and some of the characterizations, but for all intents and purposes, I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. And I find the fact that people are calling it the worst Star Wars movie all time, obviously have never seen Attack of the Clones, which is by far the worst Star Wars movie of all time, just for the awful building relationship between Amidala and Anakin, which has absolutely no heat, no chemistry, and is absolutely wooden, robotic, and just stupid puns and just stupid stories just with them. Now, the Obi-Wan stuff, if you just focus on that, it would have actually made probably a pretty cool movie, but no, they had to focus on the stupid-ass love story, which was dumb. I've also said Phantom Menace is an underrated movie. I think Phantom Menace is much better than a lot of people think it is. They just don't like the Gungans and the Jar Jar and all that stuff, which is understandable. But if you don't, you know, if you just glaze over when that stuff comes on, if you think about it, it's actually quite an interesting story, plus with a really interesting bad guy in Darth Maul. And then the Revenge of the Sith is, you know, a little bit darker and a little bit more intense. Is probably of the three, is probably the best of the three prequels. But by far, the worst Star Wars movie of all time is Attack of the Clones. Absolutely. And I will defend this to the day I die, unless they make an absolutely crappy other one coming up soon, because there's going to be a ton of Star Wars movies coming out. Now, from what I've been seeing online, a lot of people have been enjoying the hell out of Solo. Um, and a lot of these people are big fans. There's at least two humongous fans of Star Wars. I mean, huge Star Wars nerdy type people who have said how much they've loved Solo. And scoffing at the people is like, well, he doesn't look anything like Han Solo. Well, so what? Or rather, I'm sorry, Harrison Ford. So what? It doesn't matter. It's a fun movie, and it was already going to get blasted anyway because of the behind-the-scenes stuff where the directors got fired originally because the production company didn't like the tone that the film was setting, and Ron Howard had to come in and reshoot basically the whole movie. And that caused a lot of people to be irked a little bit. Plus, it's the people who are still angry, these weirdos who hated The Last Jedi. I can't say weirdos because, I mean, they might have a good point and they can make some points. And yes, there are some plot points I didn't like and characters I didn't like. But you know what? That's, everyone has their own opinions on these things. So the fact that you're already calling Solo a flop and what is going to destroy the Star Wars universe, I don't think you have any idea what you're talking about. When episode 9 comes out next December, it's going to break box office numbers. I think when you get Obi-Wan's movie coming out in 2020, I think it's going to do really well because I think Ewan McGregor's coming back to play the role again. And I think a lot of people, I particularly enjoyed his version of Obi-Wan, and it would be fun to see him doing something as well. The Boba Fett movie down the line should be interesting. And then you've got 2 new trilogies, one by Ryan, who did The Last Jedi, and also by the group that did Game of Thrones. So you've got 2 more trilogies coming up. And I think they're going to make some money too because they're going to be a little bit different and stuff. So Star Wars is not going to die. When it comes to box office, yes, Solo is going to be one of the lesser box office champions of the Star Wars movies, but it is not a flop. If you can make $100 million, considering going up against Deadpool 2 and Avengers Infinity War, which is still out in theaters, which are making gazillion dollars, then I hate to see what you think a hit is. I mean, not a hit, but if you think that's a flop, what if it was even worse? What if it only made $50 million? What would you say it was then? A disaster? $100 million is a lot of money. And that's just, in the end, it'll be, American box office will be a little bit over $100 million. Again, that happens. A lot of Marvel superhero movies had that situation. The DC superhero movies had that situation. So you can call them flops all you want. They're really not. I mean, in the end, it'll make money back in its box, in DVD and Blu-ray players because people who hated the movie are going to pick it up. As I told you a couple weeks ago, when Last Jedi came out, I've heard stories where people who absolutely hated The Last Jedi, when we went out that Tuesday or Wednesday to get a copy of it, found that they were sold out entirely at Targets and Walmarts and Best Buys and places where you buy videos. And also Amazon had to wait for a bunch of stuff to come back because everybody was buying it. So I haven't seen Solo in the movie theater. Would I like to see in the movie theater? Sure, maybe eventually. It's not a movie that I really, really want to see. But I've heard enough good things about that. When it comes out on DVD, I'll probably pick it up and buy it, and I'll watch it at home. Movies are extraordinarily expensive, and it's hard to get, people together in a time frame to do it and then go to the movie theater and then have to deal with the huge high amounts of concession prices and the idiots around you who are looking at their phones and talking and doing stuff they shouldn't, where you could just wait till it comes out on video and watch it in your own home and pause it. In the case of my wife, have the closed caption on because she can't hear very well. So she misses a lot of the lines and gets a little confused about some things because she can't hear what the lines are. Even if you go to like an IMAX where it's so freaking loud, it's also so freaking loud, there's some sort of feedback in it, and she still can't hear what they're saying and understand a lot of stuff. So you put the closed captioning on, she gets everything. We did that last night. We watched Black Panther last night. And she was like, oh, it's so much better with the closed captioning. I can follow the story better, and I got some of the jokes that she didn't catch the last time. I hate people, particularly haters, who are saying it's a big flop. I might not have been a big fan of the Justice League movie, or the DC universe and cinematic universe in general, but Justice League still did enough money that, you know, it still did okay. And it's always, you should always be able to champion the stuff that you like. I like Star Wars. I like superheroes. So even if I'm not a big fan of it, I'll still try to champion it a little bit. But you know what? End of my rant. Whatever. Let's see. What should we talk about now? Spawn. Let's talk about Spawn. I talked about some comic book movies. A lot of people are saying, oh, comic book movies are starting to run this course. No, not really, because Infinity War and Deadpool 2, whereas Deadpool 2 didn't quite make as much money as Deadpool 1, in the end, you're still going up against Avengers Infinity War. Now, if you would have waited to come out till this weekend, you probably would have made more money this weekend than you did 3 weeks ago when you moved it up. But I digress about that. It's still making enough money that it's still a hit, considering. So comic book movies are still a big deal. I mean, we still have a bunch of others coming out. We've got Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out. We've got Aquaman coming out. And that might be all. And then Dark Phoenix was supposed to come out, but that's not going to come out until next year now. So next year you've got like New Mutants and Dark Phoenix, Avengers Infinity War, Captain Marvel, or Avengers 4, Infinity War, and there might be a few other ones that I've missed. But you got, I think Spider-Man might be even coming out. Spider-Man 2 might be coming out next year also. I don't know. But again, because of the massive hits that the Marvel Cinematic Universe and even the DC Universe, for that matter, even though a lot of people are still calling them flops, they're still making a lot of money and they're still getting a lot of attention. Other companies are trying to find their superhero movies, and you're going to start seeing a lot of different ones. Like the Valiant Universe is supposed to have a movie out eventually. I haven't seen it yet. But now we get word, and this has been in the works for a while now. Todd McFarlane, who created the character of Spawn when he and a bunch of other guys created Image back in the early 90s. Spawn was his creation. It had, you know, in the 90s, it had spawned a movie, a live-action movie, and a cartoon series. But after that, it didn't really do much after that, and Spawn sort of dissipated in the aftermath of Batman and Robin and the total destruction of comic book movies in the late 90s that didn't come back into being until X-Men and Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, came in and started saying that it might be good to get to comic book movies. And you got the Nolan Batverse, and then you've got the beginning of the MCU. So that's how it's slowly been building back. But Batman and Robin was the end of the comic book movie world. They're like, okay, this is dumb. This is horrible. The movie is tanked. And that one actually did, because it only made like $150 million total, and it cost like $500 million to make, something like that. So that was it. It was an awful movie in anyway. So, but when they decided, hey, let's try to, you know, sometimes you just got to take a chance. Let's bring X-Men back. We've never seen an X-Men movie before. Maybe that'll get people's attention. X-Men came out. It was a huge hit. And then after that, Spider-Man finally was able, after all its limbo with the rights and stuff like that, it finally came out, and it was a hit also. And then it spun off sequels and so on and so forth. And then the Batverse, that was the building blocks for the Marvel and DC and comic movie world we are in now. So now, fast forward now 10 years, 20 years, whatever you want to call it, and you're starting to see that it is a huge deal. It is the best genre of film at this point. It makes the most money. You put any superhero movie in there, you're going to make some money. Maybe not as much, say, as Avengers Infinity War like that, but if you put in a superhero movie, you're still going to get a good amount of money out of it. So as I said, other movie companies are like, we need to find our superheroes. And they can't use Marvel, they can't use DC because they don't have the rights to it. So they look at other independent companies like a Dark Horse or an Image or an IDW or whatever. And Image has Spawn. And Todd McFarlane, who is the guy who created Spawn, drew him for a long time, and then has slowly not really worked on it that much. I think he's still writing it, but I don't think he's drawing it anymore. He had come up with an idea with the success of Deadpool being R-rated, Logan being R-rated, and Deadpool 2 being R-rated, obviously, that R-rated comic book movies are a thing, and he always wanted to do that. His Spawn back in the late 90s was a PG-13 movie. He wanted to push the boundaries and make an R-rated superhero movie. So he came up with the idea, he wrote the script, and he wanted to direct it. Makes perfect sense. It's your creation. And to be honest, I think a comic book writer would be a good, particularly a comic book artist, but a comic book artist would be a really good director, because basically all you're doing is, instead of putting what you want in comic form, you know, the boxes and you have them so like that, you're putting it up on screen. So basically you're making a comic book for the big screen. And I think McFarlane's going to be able to do a really good job of that. So he finally got the money and all the stuff ready, and it's a low budget, so it's going to make money. I think it was low budget. And he went out and he actually got, not necessarily an A-list anymore, but he's still a pretty good get. He got Jamie Foxx is going to play Spawn. Jamie Foxx is a Oscar award winning, or at least Oscar nominated actor who has been in a number of really good movies, was a comedian at one time, but has also played bad guys, killers, good guys, slaves, anything you could think of. He's done everything. And he's a good actor in that case. And they got a good actor to portray Spawn. So I think the Spawn movie is going to be pretty good. Again, I'm not the biggest Spawn fan, but I'm intrigued by the casting, and I've always liked the costume of Spawn, and I've always been interested in the character, though I haven't read the comics since back in the early 90s. I will wait to make my judgment for when the trailers and I start seeing behind the scenes stuff from up, but this might actually not be a bad film to check out. So good on them getting Jamie Foxx, and hopefully it will not befall the next story I'm getting ready to tell you about. The Crow. Now, The Crow, again, for those who don't know, The Crow originally started off as a comic book written by James O'Barr, written and drawn actually by James O'Barr, about a musician who was murdered and his girlfriend was raped and killed, and he was brought back to life filled with vengeance by the Crow God or whatever. And he now has, like, I'm not going to say superpowers, but he's got, what's the word I'm thinking for? He's got powers. He's a bit more metahuman, and it's due to the Crow that's around him constantly. He's already dead, so he can take bullet shots and, you know, not get killed and stuff like that. And he can fight really well, and he can, you know, he's sadistic and all this stuff because he wants vengeance against the people who killed him and raped and murdered his girlfriend. And so the comic book, you know, came out and was very well received, and then James O'Barr did another one with another person as the Crow, and the linear idea is that once the vengeance has been achieved, that person gets their happy ending, and someone else who needs the vengeance gets the Crow power again. And so you can consistently, sort of like a Doctor Who almost, you can continue to have the story of a vengeance-filled person, man or woman in this case, go around and you know, get revenge on those who've done them wrong using the magical powers of this Crow. Still a really good premise in my eyes, but here's the problem. They made an absolute fantastic adaptation of The Crow. Alex Proyas directed it, and it starred Brandon Lee. It was Bruce Lee's son. And it was going to be his entrance into leading man status. He had the looks, he had the charisma of his father. He knew his martial arts, and he knew how to act. And this was the late 90s as well. And the movie's fantastic. Unfortunately, tragedy befell. You all probably know the story, what happened. While shooting a scene, they filmed about half of the film, and the majority, maybe even more than half the film, the majority of the scenes that were left were the more human aspects of it, because they don't make films chronologically. Some people do, but the majority of people, they do different things first. They want to get, in some cases, in this case, I think Alex Proyas wanted to get all the action sequences out of the way first, and then they can deal with, because they're more complicated, then he wants to deal with the more humanistic aspects of it, and it makes it an ideal thing. And then you edit it so that you put those humanistic things mixed with the action sequences. So the majority of the film was done. And so they were filming a couple of their scenes with them just as, you know, humans before the whole Crow stuff happened. So all the background stuff. So on this one fateful day, it was the scene where, ironically enough, where the character of Brandon Lee's character is murdered by the mob people, the gangs that are, you know, trying to threaten them and stuff like that. The scene has him carrying groceries into the house, and as he comes in the house, he sees the gang has already in there and has already have raped his girlfriend, and they're getting ready. They haven't killed her yet, but they're raping her. And so he comes in on this, and they turn around and they shoot him, and then they dump his body out the window and stuff like that, thinking he's dead, because technically he was. They shot him in the heart. He's dead. So in order to do this, you're going to have, he's carrying the bags, and this is behind the scenes movie stuff. They had a splatter explosion thing for the blood and stuff like that. And then the gun, you're not really shooting a real bullet at him, of course. Obviously you're not. It's almost, in essence, it's a cap gun. You've got the loud explosion and the flame shooting out, so it's like someone's been shot. Unfortunately, what had happened was the prop master did not notice that there was a piece of a bullet or something, a chunk of the interior of the gun or something like that, was in the chamber. So when the stuntman or whoever used the gun to shoot and kill the character that Brandon Lee was playing, he actually literally shot a projectile at Brandon Lee, unbeknownst to anybody that had happened. And then Brandon Lee fell down, and then when they went and checked on him, he was bleeding and was unresponsive, and he ended up dying later on. And so he passed away due to a simple accident that honestly could have happened to anybody. Still a tragedy that had happened. So they had to make a decision what they wanted to do. Most of the film was already done. They still had a few more sequences they had to film. So they decided to film the remaining parts of the film with the stand-in. And it actually worked out perfectly that the stand-in, the scenes they had to do, the stand-in would suffice fine. And then release the movie in honor of Brandon, which they did. And it was a huge success. It was a great movie. I truly believe that if Brandon was still alive, he would be maybe not a huge movie star, but I think he'd be a pretty good one. And I'd like to see him and do a different thing. He was trying to do, one of the first movies he did was a lot like his father's, like a martial arts type of action film. This was his way of showing that he could do more than just the action martial arts stuff that his dad did. His dad was still a pretty good actor as well. But let's face it, everybody wanted to see Bruce Lee kick ass. Brandon, on the other hand, they still wanted to see him kick ass. They wanted to see a little bit more out of him, and Brandon proved it with The Crow. And I think he would have been a really good action star, maybe on par with a Bruce Willis, maybe an Arnold, maybe. It's one of these things that you can speculate all you want, but you're never going to find out. Could he also have, he would have been older now, but do you think he could have played a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or even in the DC Cinematic Universe? Sure, why not? So just think about that. Just think about Brendan playing Iron Man. I mean, it's hard to think about that because Robert Downey Jr. is so perfect at it. But Brendan would be about the right age, around the Robert Downey Jr. age, and maybe a little younger at that time, and could play a charismatic, handsome Tony Stark. Might be interesting. But I digress. Robert Downey Jr. is God. He's fantastic. That's besides the point. But so it's a huge success. So obviously, the character, again, is one of those like a Doctor Who where you can pass the mantle on to somebody else. So sure enough, they decided, hey, why don't we make a sequel? Okay, you know what? That's fine. It made money, and people I guess we're clamoring for something more, though I think, it's kind of a shame with Brandon dying and all that. So they made a sequel to Crow City of Angels. It's not very good. It was almost like a rewrite of the original one, which I guess when you think about it, it's kind of what it was supposed to be. I mean, there's only so much you can do. Someone is wronged in life. He comes back and rights his wrong, but while he goes through it, he's got to deal with a bad guy and other stuff as well. They made it slightly different, but still, and I think they had that connection where I think the girl he fell in love with was the young girl from the original Crow, who was it was a different actress, but it was older. I don't know. It could be, it could have done pretty good as a series if you would have, tried different actors in the role, like a James Bond almost. but you'd have to come up with some unique storylines. You can't always have the same old stuff over and over again. And could it have been possible? I don't know. So after that, no one wanted to do any more Crow movies. But then when the comic book movie boom started happening, people were starting to look at catalogs and stuff they could have. And people were like, oh, yeah, The Crow actually did really, really well. It's based on a comic book. People really, really liked the first one. Why don't we reboot it and maybe try to start over again and get a new series of Crow movies out? So they put it out there, and a number of directors and actors were signed on, and production was prepped, and then just something happens. Something weird usually happens. Director gets sick, or actor quits abruptly because he's unhappy with the script or something like that. Finances dip for some reason. The company that was financing it goes bankrupt and they have to liquidate or something like that. So over the last 5 to 6 years, people have been trying to get The Crow up and running, the remake for The Crow up and, not remake, I should say reboot of The Crow up and running, and have been unsuccessful. Now you could say that is the Crow curse. With Brendan Lee dying as he did while filming The Crow, and they released the film regardless, because supposedly I think this is a urban legend. I don't think it's true, but the rumor is that the shot that was in the movie of him getting shot and killed is the actual one of him getting killed. I think that's an urban legend. I don't think Alex Proyas or the editor would do that, even if it was the best angle, best shot of him getting killed. I don't think they would post the actual death of the character or of the actor in the movie. But again, it's an urban legend. People said that it was, I don't know. But regardless, so with that point, you could say that that's a curse. Because we all know the story about Bruce Lee and his curses as well in movies and stuff like that. And that's what they ultimately blamed Brandon Lee dying is due to a curse that supposedly was on the Lee family that was put on him by some sort of Buddhist guy or whatever who didn't like the fact that Bruce was taking secret martial arts that the world was not supposed to know about and putting them on screen. Again, that's another urban legend. I don't know if that's true or not. Regardless, it seemed like the Lee family was cursed in some form or another, with Bruce Lee dying young as he did from like a brain aneurysm or something like that. Now his son dying tragically during the making of the film. I think Bruce even died during the film, also making of the film. And then when the sequel came out and it performed poorly, I mean, I'll admit it, I saw it in the movie theater because I thought it was going to be pretty cool. It was part of my 52 movies that I saw like in 97 or 98, something like that. I think it was 97. Where I watched 51. I missed seeing a movie a week because it was cold in December and I didn't want to go up to the movie theater and see a movie, which in retrospect I wish I would have. So I could say, yeah, I've seen a movie a week once in my life. I went to 51 of 52 at one point. And at the same time, I didn't necessarily go every week. There were times where I saw multiple movies at one time on a Friday, or I would see one on a Friday, one on a Sunday, something like that. So that wasn't always the case, but I did see 51 movies in the movie theater in 97, I would say. And maybe 96. No, it was 97, I think. Regardless, doesn't matter. So then it underperformed. So then the curse is still strong with The Crow, and then all these people trying to get it started, stuff like that, and nothing happened. Well, then a story comes across the wire a few months ago that Jason Momoa, who plays Aquaman in the Justice League movies and also played Conan, and he was excellent Conan and was also an excellent in Game of Thrones. Aquaman, not so much. That's just my opinion. Was signed on to do The Crow with this other director. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? That actually might be something that he could do, that I wouldn't mind seeing him do, because, again, The Crow could be anybody, and Momoa does have sort of that charismatic, fun-loving ability to himself. And I'm really disappointed now that word came out yesterday or 2 days ago that both the director and Jason Momoa have said, nope, we're not doing The Crow. Curse strikes again. Which is a shame, because I kind of want to see Jason Momoa as The Crow now. You got me built it up in my head. I was like, it might actually be pretty good. And now I can't see it. So again, you could proclaim it that the curse has struck again. This was, I think, this series was this director and Jason Momoa was the one film that looked like it was going to be one crew that looked like it was going to be able to break this curse and make the movie. Now, would it have made a bunch of money? I actually think it probably would have, because people love their Jason Momoa, particularly if you can get him shirtless, and all the women would swoon, and maybe some men as well. And I think, it would have been a big success considering the climate with the comic book movies. And now I keep thinking more and more, I want to see him as the Crow, and I'm not going to be able to now because they're done. They're not doing it in movies. So now the Crow goes back up on the shelf. You could again say the character is cursed, the movie franchise is cursed, or again, it's just a coincidence. Much like with Gambit. It seems like we're never going to see a Gambit movie because something always changes, but the actor always remains the same. But the different directors have come on and decided they were going to do it, and then they said, no, we're not going to do it. So it keeps getting pushed back further. It's happened recently as well. Gambit was getting ready to start filming this fall, but then the director's like, no, I don't want to do it. So now Gambit's in limbo again. So we'll see what happens. Now, the Gambit curse, I don't know where that came from, but you can pinpoint, if you want to, believe that kind of stuff. The Crow curse could technically be real. And if this couldn't get off the ground, is there a way, is there something that could break the curse? Maybe eventually, sure. Just maybe not for another few years. I really want to see Jason Momoa as a Crow. I think that would have been awesome. Speaking about disappointments, this is just a good lead-in for that. I'm kind of not only, and that really didn't depress me that much because in the end, it's just a movie. It would have been nice to see, obviously. It'd been fun to see, to talk about on my show with MJ Khan, and maybe do a review of it if it ever came out, and we could make a review of it and compare it to the classic that we had in the 90s. But it didn't disappoint me. It doesn't disappoint me quite as much as what I'm about to tell you now. I live in Reisterstown, which is a suburb of Baltimore. And I love Baltimore. I love Reisterstown. I grew up outside of Baltimore in an area called Rogers Forge or Annesley or Towson. You can call it whatever you want to. But it's that same general area. So I didn't live that far away from the city. Actually, the city line was literally right down the street, about a mile or two down the street. So I was really close to the city line, but I was technically still in Baltimore County. So, Baltimore was not that far away. We would go downtown, go to the Harbor Place, go to the Science Center, the aquarium, power plant when it was an actual place to go and have fun at. I mean, it's a Barnes Noble now, and I like going to that there, but there used to be an amusement park. And then when the Orioles, my baseball team, which is not doing that well this year, but when they moved downtown, it was another reason to go downtown. Now, where they built Camden Yards, they built Camden Yards next to a warehouse, because it used to be the area where Camden Yards and also Raven Stadium was built, M&T Bank Stadium, I should say, but I call it Raven Stadium because I don't like these corporate sponsored names. Where they built that area used to be a warehouse business park area, which had been desolate for a while, so they tore all that down. But they kept the one warehouse as like a backdrop to Camden Yards, and that in itself makes Camden Yards probably the best stadium in the country. And that's not just me being a Baltimorean, being proud of my stadium. That opened back in '92, and it's still been voted best stadium even today. By sports magazines and sports fans everywhere. They say that Camden Yards is probably the best baseball stadium because that stadium pretty much set the blueprint for all the other stadiums that are out there now. So all the other stadiums you see out there now that were built after Camden Yards used a lot of what Camden Yards did to make their stadiums. So you have this backdrop of this warehouse. Now next to the warehouse is another building, another old type of building, sort of similar in this business park area that they didn't want to tear down. It's historical and stuff like that. Well, they decided at one point they're going to turn it into like a museum type of thing to get people to come down to where the stadium is, not just during game day, but as a way to walk around and added a new attraction that you could go to when you're down at down in Baltimore, because you can only go to the aquarium so many times, or the Science Center, or Harbor Place, or whatever. You want to get you want to do someplace new stuff. And so in this building, which is literally right next to Camden Yards, they put the Maryland Sports Museum, and they also put the Gem Museum. Now, the Maryland Sports Museum was a stadium that celebrated everything about Maryland sports: the Ravens, the Orioles, the Colts, the Baltimore Bullets when we had a basketball team, the Skipjacks, which is like our AHL hockey team we used to have, the Baltimore Blast, which is our indoor soccer team, and then all of lacrosse, because Maryland is a huge lacrosse state. The schools in our area, Hopkins and University of Maryland and Goucher and Towson and all these places, there are Loyola. These are powerhouses in the world of collegiate lacrosse. And so that was big as well. And then we've had Babe Ruth was born in Baltimore. He didn't play for the Orioles or the Browns or whatever team you want to call them before we got the Orioles in 1954. He didn't play for the Orioles, but he born and raised in Baltimore. We have a Babe Ruth museum where he grew up down the road from Camden Yards. So, and then there've been, Olympic, champions. That swimmer, Michael Phelps, who grew up in my neighborhood, is the reigning world record holder for most gold medals won at Olympics. We've had other famous sports figures and announcers and stuff like that who were born in Maryland and have moved on to successful jobs elsewhere. And they were all celebrated in this museum. The Orioles Hall of Fame was in this museum, and they had all kinds of cool stuff. And it was a cool museum. I went there once. However, they decided that it wasn't making a lot of money. A lot of people were going because they didn't really have advertising. They didn't have signs saying, "This is the Maryland Sports Museum." They didn't have any. You didn't know it unless you were in the know, where people said, "Hey, did you go down there? There's a museum down there." They didn't really know, which is a shame. If they would have maybe advertised a bit more, maybe it wouldn't have decided to get rid of it. So they took all the stuff in that Maryland Sports Museum and moved it over to the Babe Ruth Museum, which is still going strong. So now all that's over there now. So that left the Gem Museum. Now, what is the Gem Museum? Now, I've talked about the Gem Museum before, and I have a personal connection to it. The Gem Museum is Geppi's Entertainment Museum. My boss, Steve Geppi, at one time when I worked for Diamond Comics back at the turn of the century, my boss was Steve Geppi. He owned Diamond Comics. He was also one of the biggest collectors of pop culture artifacts and comic books that you would ever see. He has owned multiple copies of Action Comics #1, Superman #1, Amazing Fantasy 15, Detective Comics 27, Batman #1, literally from the 1930s. He owned all these, and he's owned multiple copies of it, and he sold multiple copies of it for over millions of dollars. He sold one copy of, I think, Amazing Fantasy 15, which is Spider-Man's first appearance, for over $3 million. Just for that one book. He sold it for that much and got that money. It was his. So he has all this, and he's bought a bunch of them, and he had this huge collection. Now, he used to have a mini museum in the building I worked at up in Timonium, Maryland. It was on the 4th floor, and it was really, the public really couldn't go in. It was more of a way for when he was wooing business partners or whatever, he would take them and show them all the stuff. And we were allowed to go in every once in a while to check it out because we were employees. But it wasn't really open to the public. But he decided he wanted to show off his stuff and move it from this 4th floor and let everybody take a look at it. So he bought the space above the Maryland Sports Museum in this building down by Camden Yards, because at the same time, Steve Geppi is one of the owners of the Orioles. So he had the okay to do that because I own the team right next door. I co-own it. He's not the only owner. So he moved everything down there. I don't know, it's been 5, 10 years, whatever. It's been there for a little while. But again, not a lot of people knew it was there. It was never really advertised. No one ever really spoke of it unless they went down there or knew about it. And that's a shame, because I've been there multiple times, and even though it really doesn't change all that much, it's still fun to see all this stuff. well, once a year or whatever, go back and see everything, because you might not remember what you saw, or you say, I want to see that again. And it was set up so perfectly also. You walked in to the lobby, and then once you paid for your stuff, you went into the hallway, and there's just rooms. The first room you usually go into is the comic room, which had all of his big comics, copies of Amazing Spider-Man #1 and Detective 27 and Amazing Fantasy 15 that he owns still on display in these things. And he also goes through other big books from the 70s, 80s, 90s to today. So he had displays of comics that a lot of times I own myself, but are worth a lot of money if in condition. So they had that. They also had a digital computer, so you go and you can read these books without having to physically read them. They were all inputted into the computer, so you could read Amazing Fantasy 15 or whatever, but you wouldn't actually be holding it in your hand. You could just read the book. So like that. Then you would go to the first room, which was pop culture, and it's a pop culture museum. Pop culture from like the 1800s to the 1900s, and so it would have, you know, artifacts that he'd gotten from this time period on display there. And then move down to the Roaring 20s and 30s pop culture, and then the 40s and 50s wartime pop culture, and then 60s and 70s where you got Beatles and all kinds of memorabilia and crazy stuff like that, and the Batman TV show memorabilia, stuff like that. Then you go in the 80s, 90s where you get Star Wars memorabilia and E.T. and the Muppets and stuff like that. And then you get to the gift shop, which had a section which had current pop culture stuff, Harry Potter and stuff like that, and it just on display there. And then you could buy stuff at the gift shop, and that was your tour. There was also a special room where they had, where to keep it interesting, he would have a moving exhibit to come in. In some cases, it was a lot of it was comic oriented. There was an Amanda Connor retrospective, which showed all her original artwork that was given to him and stuff, statues made based on her drawings, stuff like that. And then there was like a traveling exhibit based on Captain America, who's like celebrating his 50th anniversary or something like that. So it was different Captain America memorabilia in this one room, so like that. So to mix it up a little bit, he would have one moving event like that. And it was gorgeous. I mean, the museum was exactly what you expected. Dark paneled wood, hardwood floors, wonderful displays. It looked like a real museum. This week got word that he is closing. Actually, today is the last day of the Gem Museum downtown. He is closing it, and he is moving his collection to the Library of Congress. So if you want to go see it now, you have to go to the Library of Congress. Now, I've always wanted to go to the Library of Congress. This might be a way for me to go down and see it now, an incentive to go see it. But the fact that it is not going to be easily accessible now, where I'd be like, you know what I want to do today? I want to go to the Gem Museum. You take a bus downtown, or the metro, not the metro, the light rail, or drive downtown, and I can walk up and I can pay for my ticket, and I can just get lost in the hallways of this Gem Museum. I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. And, you know, Library of Congress is down in DC, which is a little bit further away from here, so I could still do it, but it means having to go into DC and spending more time traveling than I want. So am I going to go to the Library of Congress? Yeah, probably not. It's a shame, because I really, really enjoyed it, because I loved it. Now, yes, I've seen the same things over and over again and stuff like that, but it's still it was a fun place to go. Now, today is the last day. There's free admission, so everybody who's never seen it before or whatever, you get your chance to say goodbye to it before he shuts his doors after closing today. It's too late for me now. It's raining. It's going to be yucky out. I'm doing my show now, so I'm not going to be able to make it down there. And I'm okay with that. So it's a shame that we're missing that. But then that is just one of two things that have just hit me right here. There's a place in Reisterstown, not that far from here. It's the best laser tag place. I've talked about this place before. Love this laser tag place. I have a friend who works there, and I've taken my family there numerous times, and all four of us like to go in there, and we like to do laser tag. My daughter had to do an impromptu birthday party there when the place she wanted to go to was closed due to snow, but this place stayed open, and it was closer to us, so we were able to drive there, and we had a great time. She had a fun time with her friends and us doing this light laser tag. And it was awesome. It was so cool. It was in this business park. You know, once again, not a lot of people would know about it, but we discovered it. We went in there. They had video games. They had, you know, ways to get tickets. You know, like a Chuck E. Cheese where you get tickets and you can buy like crappy, you know, toys and stuff like that, but still was fun. They had a small mini golf course inside. It was just kind of lame mini golf course. They sold pizza and drinks and stuff like that as well. But the main area was they had 2 laser tag areas. One was laser tag. The other was tactical tag, or whatever you want to call it. Tactical was outside, and it had like a mock-up of like a neighborhood, like a burnt out Nicaraguan place. And your job was, you were divided into 2 teams, and you'd have to be tactical about you'd have to capture the flag or do stuff like that. So you could do that. But then on the inside, they had an enclosed indoor laser tag arena, which was futuristic, had black lights, booming bass music, sometimes fog, depending on what they wanted to do, ramps, stuff you could hide behind, and that was laser tag. And you had 2 bases, and you'd run around in the dark and shooting each other. You'd have certain power-ups, stuff like that. It was awesome. And knowing that it was still there, and we could go there anytime we wanted to, and it wasn't that expensive either. Probably about $32 for all 4 of us to go there to do the 45-minute session. They had other sessions you could do as well, and I always wanted to do the 120-minute session. And I was hoping I could do it for my birthday this year. That's not going to happen because as of yesterday, the laser tag place is closed. So I knew this place was closing, but they said they were going to stay open until the 16th, which was the week before when I wanted to go and do my birthday party. They decided, because they didn't have any other birthday parties listed, they were just going to shut down early. So yesterday was the last day, or actually it might have been Friday, might have been the last day. June 1st might have been their last day. And they're shut down. They're closed now. They have another place in Laurel, but again, Laurel's outside of DC. It's going to be another bit of a hike. So you can't just say, you know what, I want to play laser tag. And it's 5 minutes from the house. You drive over, you play laser tag for 45 minutes, and it's fun. Everybody enjoys it. Laurel's going to be a bit different. Laurel's about an hour away. And you have to drive the highway, and it just doesn't work. And it wasn't like I wasn't going all the time. We went multiple times during the year, 2 to 4 times during the year. So yeah, we didn't go every week because that would be ridiculous. But the fact that if we ever felt the urge to do something, we're bored, what do you want to do? Hey, why don't we do laser tag? Sure, that's a great idea, because everybody wanted to do laser tag. 5 minutes away from the house. We had a friend who worked there, and it was the coolest ever. It's better than a lot of other laser tag places that are in the area. And now I've lost that as well. So I'm disappointed in both of those things. Yes, it's not the end of the world. Yes, I know. But still, the fact is, it's stuff that I liked. And I wanted more people to get involved with. That's why I wanted to do it my birthday there, because I wanted to get my family, my extended family, to experience. I wanted to get my cousins, my nephews, my in-laws, everybody in there, and experience what real laser tag is like. Not this stupid laser tag that we've done in other places before. This is real laser tag. And now it's gone. And I'm disappointed. What the hell? Oh. No, so mark that off. All right. How can I back that up? Here's something that's going to piss me off and might piss you off as well. A televangelist, who are a bunch of criminals anyway, is demanding his flock raise $54 million so he can buy a 4th airplane, because he said that's what God wants him to do, to have a fourth airplane. $54 million. He wants his flock to raise $54 million for him to buy a fancy airplane that God said he should have. You know what? They're probably going to buy it for him, because people who follow those televangelists, pretty stupid. And televangelists, I mean, that's how they are fleecing you, and they are doing it so that it makes like, if you don't do it, your life is going to be awful. You're not going to get into heaven, and you're going to go to hell, and you're going to be in terrible pain for the rest of your life if you don't give me $54 million to make my 4th airplane. Everybody has their own take on religion, That just doesn't make a damn bit of sense. I'm going to end on that. That pisses me off. Something else that pisses me off. The New York Comic Con is coming up soon. It's a big one. They've slowly built it to be not as big as San Diego, but it's still one of the big Comic Cons of the year. And I guess you can do a little bit of Schadenfreude now because everyone was saying how great it is. And most people live in New York who work in the comic book industry. And plus you can get more movie stars and TV stars to come in and make it like San Diego, because that's what San Diego is. San Diego has ceased to be a comic book convention, even though they still call it San Diego Comic Con. It has ceased to become a comic book convention. It's more of a pop culture convention now. And comics are a very little itty bitty part of it now. And the comic industry types are very itty bitty little part of it. It's all kinds of movies that might not even be comic book movies, or TV shows that might not even be considered comic book movies are showing up at San Diego Comic Con and pushing their shit. So New York has been trying to do the same thing. They're trying to become the San Diego of the East Coast. And for all intents and purposes, they've been doing pretty good. They've been getting 100,000 people. They've got the best venues. And because they have so many pros living in the New York area, they can get a lot more of the popular writers and artists to come visit. Or even if they're freelancing, their headquarters is in New York City. So they'll go into New York City. They can have a powwow with their editors face to face, which they do every once in a while anyway. And they, hey, why don't we just do a convention too, get paid for that, get people, see the fans, stuff like that. But again, because San Diego has become pop culture, New York wants to be pop culture also. So they get TV shows and actors from movies that aren't necessarily comic book related or sci-fi related to come and do their stuff. Well, news broke this week that the Comic-Con is denying badges for professional creators. So that means a New York comic convention is not giving out badges to comic book producers. Instead, giving more to the movie stars and TV stars. It's a comic convention. The comic book professionals should be your main target, not these stars. It's good to have both, but you need to focus on the comic book public. And the reason why I said I enjoy Schadenfreude in this is because my Baltimore Comic-Con that a lot of people dismiss, if you ask any comic book creator out there what their top 5 conventions are, the majority will say Baltimore's up there as well, because it is more of a comic book convention. Hence the name, Baltimore Comic-Con. It is a comic book convention. Now, over the years, and look, you can call me biased if you want, because the guy who runs it owns my comic book store up the street from here, and I love him. He's great. But at the same time, he's been doing this since before I even moved here. He started the con like in 2000. And if you ask any of the big names, a lot of the big name stars, what are your top 5 conventions? Baltimore is always in their top 5 because they treat the creators the way they should be treated. They're the big names, they're the stars, they're the ones that when he does his flyers, all these comic book creators are going to be at the convention. And over the last few years, though, Mark, who's the guy who runs it, has been bringing in some more pop culture type of people, but it is not to the extent that New York and San Diego do it. They're small, 1-day, 2-day visits. I mean, Sean Astin was here once. Peter Mayhew was here once. But the majority of the people and their guests of honor are comic book people. Stan Lee was a guest of honor a few years ago. Frank Miller's been a guest of honor. Jim Lee was a guest of honor at one time. These are all comic book professionals. And that's why the Comic-Con people love it. The fact is also, it is basically until, comic book conventions run pretty much all year round. But there is a specific con season, which is from like this point in time, June, to about September, August if you want. But with the advent of the Baltimore Comic-Con, it has pushed it to September, because usually it's in September, October is when the convention is, Baltimore Convention is. And for a lot of people, they claim that as the end of convention season, because it's the last big convention, because literally all these creators, they come to this, they're invited to it, they love coming to this show. They love talking to people. I mean, we're talking big creators. I mean, the guys that are selling the big books now, they love to come to Baltimore, and they come multiple times over and over every year, and they love it. And obviously, I don't know the full extent of, what they do, but I'm sure Mark probably gives them, a lot of incentive to come to Baltimore. And they do, and it's great. And that's why I love Baltimore Comic-Con. And that's why I like to laugh at the New York Comic-Con people, because New York always seems to have the superiority over Baltimore, which is, sure, it's given. New York is a city never sleeps. Everybody loves New York. I don't. I hate New York, and that's just me. But I love Baltimore. And apparently, so do a bunch of Comic-Con people. And also, it helps that a lot of the con people who live in New York, Baltimore's not that far away. Take the train, you take the airplane. It's only a few hours ride down. You're okay. So it's not like you're going to California if you live on the East Coast. That's a little bit of a hike. So I just find that story interesting because as of now, my con doesn't do that. And the creators who are not getting the badges will be like, well, then F you, New York. I'm going to go to Baltimore because they treat me right. And we're going to get more creators here. The Baltimore Con has been building every year. And I'm not just saying it's because I'm a homer. It's the truth. If you look at the numbers, it's increasing in size every year. They get more attendance every year. And the fact that they added a third day is even more telling, because it used to be only 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. They added a Friday, and that has just increased the size of it. There you go. What other crap can I get into? Just to mention, Top Gun 2 has started filming. I hate Top Gun. Everybody else loves Top Gun. I'm not a big fan of Top Gun. Now we have Tom Cruise coming back to Maverick in Top Gun 2. Is Val Kilmer coming back as Iceman? I don't know. But they've started filming Top Gun 2. It is a thing. It'll probably be out next summer. To be continued. Top Gun 2. Speaking of local, I'm all over the place today. I love cats. I like dogs, but I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person. And I've been seeing recently that, and I've talked about this on other shows, that a lot of baseball stadiums are now having like doggy days at the park, where they're going to let the dogs run around on the field before the game or after the game or something like that. Or they're going to set up a section like in the bullpen or whatever for dogs to run around and play and do stuff like that. And that's fine. That's cool. It's great to bring your pets, stuff like that, because people have this connection to their pets. They love their pets to death, and they want to keep them healthy and happy and all that stuff. But cats always seem to get the raw deal about it, because cats don't really travel. You don't really, there are some, but the majority of them, you don't walk with leashes. You don't let them, run around and play, because they don't. But I'll have to give credit to the Washington Nationals. Baseball team down in the South, which the Orioles are sucking this year. The Nationals are amazing this year. And that always seems to be the case anyway. But they are doing a Take Your Cat to a Nationals game coming up in July. And I think that's really, really cool. And I'm glad that the Nats are also, and they're doing a dog one also. So it's only fair that do dogs and cats, but at different times, obviously. So I think that's kind of cool that, they're giving an opportunity. If you want to bring your cat to a baseball game, here's a chance to. And I think that's a great idea. Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Doctor Strange in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, also plays Sherlock for the BBC, is a real hero. You've probably seen the story also. The other day, he successfully scared away 4 thugs who were mugging a cyclist. They jumped the cyclist and were attempting to steal his stuff when he came out and says, "Get away from that guy." And I don't think he tried to fight them. I think they got freaked out enough that they ran away. But the funniest thing is, someone wrote a tweet, like, how weird would it be that you just got jumped by 4 guys trying to beat you up, steal your money, and have been hurting you, and you hear a voice, you don't know who it is, whatever, and you scare them off, and they get scared off, and you want to thank the person. You turn around, and you notice it's freaking Doctor Strange, or it's freaking Sherlock, who just scared these people away. Your mind has just absolutely got to be, whoa, this is pretty cool. So good on you, Benedict Cumberbatch, for doing that. Let's see, what else? Sweet Jesus ice cream is coming to, I have a friend who lives in Minnesota. He told me that the Mall of America is going to be getting one of these. It's an ice cream chain that has names of their ice creams such as Hella Nutella or Red Rapture, religious connotations, stuff like that for their ice cream. And it's a different take on the ice cream shop. Sure, Sweet Jesus ice cream. But of course, as expected, the Christians, one of which I am, but I find no offense about this, are trying to boycott it because they believe it is a detriment to their religion to have an ice cream named after their savior. It's an ice cream store. It's not like the devil is running the ice cream store and is, turning people to evil under the guise of the Sweet Jesus ice cream. It's people who thought it'd be kind of neat to have a place called Sweet Jesus ice cream and be a little creative, a little bit different than most ice cream stores, and have the names of their ice cream after religious icons or whatever. Sometimes it's hard being a Christian. That's all I got to say about that. Glitter coffins. Yes, glitter is the big thing. Everyone loves their glitter. Now you can get a glitter coffin. A coffin covered in glitter, or glitter put into the paint job or whatever. So you can be buried in style, and while you are up at the church during your funeral in your coffin, all the lights flashing off of all the mini stars on it. That is glitter. And then you get buried in the ground in a glitter coffin. That's all I got to say about that. Coke releases its first alcoholic beverage. I don't know the name of it. I just saw the headlines. Like, okay, Coke is expanding into the alcohol industry. Makes sense, Alcohol is big business. Soda is too, but you know what? You add alcohol to it, boom, you could have a rum and Coke now, but with Coke rum. Red rum. A competitive, now you know what? Yeah, I'll do, this is going to be the Netflix portion of our show today at 2 o'clock. We're going to start off the Netflix version of it with a competitive weed cooking show will be appearing on Netflix very soon. Cooking with weed. Yes, we're talking about marijuana brownies, marijuana whatever. This cooking show will have one of the ingredients be marijuana, and they will have to create dishes that have marijuana in it. I might actually watch this show just to see what people can come up with. Because on top of that, and actually, you know what? I better save that. No, you know what? It's probably, this isn't Netflix, but this is a story that just popped up also. So you got the weed cooking show coming to Netflix, and that might be one of the next superfoods. Why not? Weed makes you feel good, not only when you're just smoking it to expand your mind, or you smoke it to take care of pain that you were suffering from a disease or arthritis or whatever, something that's painful to you as well. That's why they have marijuana, medical marijuana now, because it is shown that it can cure or at least ease the pain of diseases and stuff like that. But now they're saying algae is going to be another superfood now. So people are going to start eating algae, or going to start mixing algae with their food. I don't know how I feel about that, but I just had to connect it to that. Now back to Netflix. Uma Thurman, who hasn't really been seen in movies all that much, has decided that she's going to take advantage of the Netflix boom, and she is going to do a show called Chambers for Netflix. I think they said something along the lines, it's going to be like some supernatural show, maybe sort of in the vein of a Stranger Things type of thing. But the fact is, Netflix is now becoming a huge deal. It has been for the last couple of years, but it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it might be able to withstand the losses they're going to suffer when Disney opens their own streaming service and takes all the Disney stuff off of Netflix. But now they have all this creative stuff. And you got to wonder, where are they getting the money? I guess it's from subscriptions, but there's got to be some other places you're getting money so you're going to be able to make these movies. Like Michael Bay is going to be making a movie direct to Netflix. And Will Smith has made one, is going to make another one, eventually as well. Adam Sandler, as basically he's turned from churning out a movie a year that's in movie theaters now to churning out a movie a year that appears on Netflix. They might not be that good, they still get lots of views. So Uma doing a TV show is interesting because, again, with Netflix, you're not, and that's what I like about Netflix, is you can make it basically like an 18-hour movie if you're going to do 18 episodes, or 13-hour movie if you're doing 13 episodes, or 10-hour movie if you're doing 10 episodes. And just basically film it like that, like a 10-hour movie. And then the editors will cut up into 10 episodes for a TV show. And it'll be placed on, and then they'll release all 10 episodes at one time on Netflix, which I really like also. So instead of it being come out piecemeal once every week for 10 weeks. And I think that's what draws a lot of these actors that you don't expect to do TV shows, because Uma Thurman probably would not do a network TV show because it would take almost a full year to do one show, because it's usually about 22 episodes. It starts in September, goes to May. It's not necessarily a full year, but it's about 9 months of the year. This case, she can just go in. It's Netflix, so you don't have the FCC on your ass. So you can do more adult situation stuff. You can introduce more topics that would not fly on network TV. You can get a little bit more gruesome or sexual or whatever on Netflix because it isn't affected by the FCC. Now, they would have to put, if there is more sex and violence and gore or whatever, they'd have to put warnings, which they do. Says, hey, this is going to have lots of sex in it, lots of nudity, lots of violence, lots of gore, lots of blood. Hey, you might not want your kids to watch this. Maybe block it for them, which you can do. Maybe block it for them. But you can still watch it, and you can binge it over weekends. Like, that was really cool. That's what makes Netflix so cool about that, is I think that's really neat. So it'd be interesting to see Uma do that, and it is a supernatural type of thriller type of show, so it should be fun to see Uma Thurman doing something like that. So good on Uma about that. And then finally, I think the last thing about Netflix is Lock and Key, which is a comic book that I've always wanted to read, but I've never gotten around to getting the trades, and I've never sat down to read it. They're actually going to be doing a TV series on Netflix also. They did a pilot. And much like as I was talking about earlier, it's much like the same way. They do a pilot. Netflix says, we'll do a pilot for this show. They decide they want to do a full series, and they'll do the full series after that. They'll use the pilot as the first episode, and then they can expand it from there. Or if the producers want to change some stuff up in the pilot, I'm sure Netflix will be like, yeah, go ahead. We'll be releasing it anyway with the rest of the series. So if you want to do a different one or reshoot it or whatever, go for it. But that's the reason. This is why. But they'll say this is why we picked up the show, because of what this pilot showed us. So it went to pilot and it got picked up. So that'll be interesting to see that as well. Plus, they're going to be getting more into the comic book biz with Mark Millar with his Millarverse stuff. I think they showed the first trailer for their first comic they're going to be doing, which looks pretty good. Millar, I've had like a love-hate relationship with, because I've hated his earlier stuff, but I'm liking digging his later stuff now. So we'll see about that. So that's it for this version of Dylan Knows Netflix. Speaking of TV shows coming up this week, Face Off is coming back for its final season on Sci-Fi, which is a great show. It's a reality show, a makeup competition where budding makeup artists compete against each other to create magnificent science fiction, horror, creepy makeups in a set time frame, and they get judged on it by judges who know their stuff, and then people get eliminated who lose, and then you break it down to the winner, the last three, and then the last three have a competition. The winner of Face Off wins money and prestige and all this stuff. My daughter has fallen in love with the show, so Tuesday, June 5th, which also coincides with my dad's birthday, the final season begins of Face Off, the first new episode in a while. And also coming out this week, also another show my daughter again wants to watch is coming on Freeform, which used to be ABC Family, and is a superhero show, but it's also a Marvel show based in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is Cloak and Dagger. My daughter has seen ads for it. She wants to see it. It's up her alley. It's like a teenage drama. She's almost a teenager, so she wants to watch Cloak and Dagger. awesome. Let's go watch Cloak and Dagger. So we'll do that. That's on the 7th, which I think it's, let me see, 5th is Thursday the 7th. So some good stuff coming up on TV. I'll definitely be watching a bit more TV than I have because my daughter wants to watch these shows. So good on that. Vermont. Raise your hand if you like Vermont. I like Vermont. Vermont will pay you $10,000 to move and work, no, to move to Vermont and work from home. It is to combat Vermont's aging population. Vermont has one of the oldest working populations in the country, which when I read what the age was, I think it said it was 38 years old. I was like, really? That's considered old? And I guess that makes sense because that's on average. So that means, you know, the average person who works in Vermont is close to 40 years old. Doesn't mean that everyone is that way. You could have some that are in their 50s and 40s and 60s still working in their 50s, 40s, and then you had a few in their 30s. Oh, actually, a lot more since the average is 38. A lot in their 30s, not too many in their 20s, because if you have more in their 20s, then the average age will be dropped down. So this is more along lines for people who are younger, obviously. I would take advantage of it. It's like, oh, cool, I love Vermont. You know, they'll pay me $10,000. I can move into a nice house in Vermont, get a job where I don't have to go anywhere. I can work from home and some sort of computer job, and that's awesome. And I can have a wonderful new job and live in Vermont, which is gorgeous state, you know, and it's wonderful and maple syrupy and stuff like that. But I'm going to be 45 years old. They don't want people like me working there. They want people like in their 20s, people who are just getting out of college. Say, hey, you know what? You just got out of college. You're going to owe a ton of money to your loans. Hey, why don't you come to Vermont? Come on, you're 20 years old, 21, 22. We need young people. We're a great state, you know. We can be the next Portland, Oregon if you want. Come out to Vermont, and we'll give you money to buy a house, and we'll give you a job where you don't have to go anywhere. You can work from home on your computer. You're already computer literate as it is. Your whole generation has grown up on computer stuff. It would be cool if I was coming out of college and be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to Vermont. Hell yeah. I don't want to stick around here anymore. I want to get away from my parents. You know, I had my freedom. I loved my freedom for 4 years in college. Guess what? I want to go up there. And I can meet some other cool chicks, you know, or guys if you're a chick. Hey, and I can start a whole new life and brand new, and I get paid for it. I get $10,000, and I'll have a job going right in so I can pay off my loans quicker. So good idea on that. Though, as I said, I can't do it because I could try. I mean, they might. I doubt they would say, you know, sir, you're just too old. We're not going to accept you. We're not going to give you. Or what they'll do is if you apply to it and they see how old you are, it's like, no, we'll put him in the reject pile. It's like, we're sorry. No, we've already filled all those positions. Thank you for applying, though. So I'm not applying. I'm not going anywhere. But it's a neat idea for those who are younger. If you're looking for a change in your life, if you want to do something different with your life, you know, you want to start off fresh and not have to worry about anything. Absolutely check it out, because Vermont is a really nice state and it's a nice area, and it's not that far from New York. So whereas Vermont doesn't really have a budding, you know, young adult life really, and maybe that's what they're trying to bring about. If you want to, you're not that far away from New York. It's a couple of hours, but you're not that far away from New York. It's not like you're, you know, 3, 4, 5 miles, like here. If you lived in Maryland, you're about 5 to 10. You're not 10, but like 5 hours away from New York City if you're driving. If you're taking the train, it's about the same amount of time. So, and plus, you know, it's awful driving up to New York. So, you know, you take the train, you know, but Vermont is a lot closer to New York than Maryland is. So check it out. Definitely, you know, worth looking at if you're younger, or you know, even give it a try. If you feel like you're not going anywhere, you know, just, there's nothing wrong with applying. You know, apply even if you're not the age group they're looking for. You might get in. You never know if that's something you want to do. I think they have a website. I don't know what it is. Just type in, you know, $10,000 in Vermont and something will come up, I think. I'm pretty sure. Boom. I just found this funny. Aliens are real, but humans will probably kill them, which says a lot about our world. You know, that was a paper somebody wrote that space.com posted on Facebook. And I didn't really read the article. all that much. I glanced through it, but basically, someone's saying aliens are real, which I totally agree on because I've talked about this on this show a million times. People are looking for aliens on worlds like Earth. So they say if it doesn't have oxygen, doesn't have water, there's no reason for us to look there because there's going to be no aliens there. And then I say to them, well, how do you know aliens are like us? How do you know that they haven't evolved so that they breathe nitrogen or hydrogen or don't need water? Maybe they drink lava. I don't know. You don't know. Evolution is interesting. You should look everywhere for life, not just areas like Earth. Because not everybody's going to breathe oxygen. Not everybody is going to need water to survive. There are probably aliens that were able to evolve on a planet that has no water, but they're able to suck in sunlight. Maybe their bodies are made of solar panels, and they're able to suck in the energy they need from the sun. I don't know. But I truly believe aliens exist. Do I believe that they've been visiting the Earth in UFOs? Kind of. I don't disagree with that. Do I believe that they've abducted humans? Again, maybe. Again, I'm not saying no, definitely not. No, there's a possibility. But I truly believe that aliens are real. I find it odd that other people don't believe in aliens because it's kind of scary. You're the only life that was formed in how humongous the universe is. It's infinite size. And if we're the only living beings, it's kind of sad, really. Plus, we don't know. We don't have light year travel yet. So there might be alien civilizations out there that have risen and already collapsed and have already died. And that's why we're not seeing any aliens. Maybe they've lived long before Earth was created. Maybe they created the Earth. That's a possibility too. So, but the headline itself, aliens are real, but humans will probably kill them. It's very telling about our life. We always tend to hate on things that we don't understand. And if an alien did come to Earth and they're peaceful, because most times, you see these movies like Independence Day, stuff like that, where they're coming to attack the Earth, or Signs, they're coming to attack the Signs. That might be good for my daughter to watch. I digress. But where they come down and they come to attack. And so we're so ingrained with the fact that aliens, if we see an alien coming, they're going to attack and try to enslave the Earth. Or even if they come down and say, I come in peace. You've got that Twilight Zone episode where they're like, oh, yeah, we're here for peace. And then you find out that they're just grabbed a bunch of humans because they want to eat them. So again, making aliens look bad. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe they know aliens are real, and they know that if they come, people are going to want to live with them because they're more peaceful. They're going to leave Earth. And guess what? You're going to be losing your population, money, whatever. So let's make it seem like aliens are awful. So that even, and even if they come saying they come in peace and you destroy them, because you might don't understand. Maybe they aren't really here for peace. Maybe there's a reason behind that. But what if they are? What if they're benevolent? What if they want to come down and say, hey, man, we just want to talk. We thought we were the only ones in the universe, and now here you are. Let's share ideas. Let's see some things. Hell no, you're going to come for my guns. Boom, 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 and you're all dead, aliens. Unfortunately, that's the way the Earth is. It needs to change, man. Is that what could happen? Absolutely not. But this headline, this article, if you think about the way the Earth is, whenever something different happens, immigrants, refugees, people of different colors, sexual persuasions, sexes, and how we treat these things, people, items, creatures, whatever. Yeah, it's pretty much true to life, is that if we saw somebody understand, get off my planet, you're coming for my guns, I'm going to kill you. It's just sad that the Earth has come to that. Now, what time is it? It's 2:17. I started about 12:30-ish. That put me about 2 hours in. I try not to go too far over 2 hours, but I've got some more things I got to deal with here. Let me see. What else do I got to talk about here? Sesame Street lost its lawsuit against the Happy Time Murders, which is, I talked about that trailer a couple weeks ago. It's basically a Team America version of a movie, but it has puppets that have sex and do drugs and ejaculate and all kinds of craziness and curse and do all kinds of stuff. It looks funny as hell, and it had been using a tagline that Sesame Street uses. So Sesame Street decided to sue them, and in this case, Sesame Street lost. So they lost that. Harry Potter is getting back into things. Cards Against Muggles, which is a version of Cards Against Humanity, is coming out. It's all Harry Potter-oriented Cards Against Muggle ideas. And the Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit is coming out. And I just lost my one viewer talking about, hey, I'm going to go another 15 minutes. So those games are coming out, so keep an eye out for that. If you're a Harry Potter fan, definitely take an eye out on that. Ellicott City, which is a town nearby me, about 2 years ago, suffered a horrible tragedy when a freak rainstorm, which dumped about 6 inches of rain over a 2-hour period, flooded the city. Now, the city of Ellicott City is on a river, and it's a historic place. Ellicott City's been around for a really, really long time. It's a historic place, and this flooding damaged lots of the historical buildings, shops there, and it took 9 to 10 months to get it back on its feet, but it was back on its feet, and everything was hunky-dory for the next 2 years until last week when we had another massive rainstorm, last weekend actually, last Sunday when I did this show. After I did this show last Sunday, a massive rainstorm hit us, and it flooded Ellicott City out again. So again, 2 years later, they're going through the same thing. People lost their businesses. People lost their houses. The road has been wiped out. And now the questions begin. There have been some issues. It took a lot of time and a lot of pain and suffering to get it back up and running. And now they got to do the whole damn thing over again. So again, we're not going to look forward to an opening of Ellicott City again until the fall, which is a shame because Ellicott City is a wonderful town and it doesn't deserve this. However, this time was a little bit different, because someone actually but eventually revealed the reason why this keeps happening now. Was it another freak rainstorm? Maybe it was. But the main reason why this happened again was because Ellicott City has been around for so long, and they never had this type of flooding issue before until recently. What's different is that Ellicott City has blossomed as a city, and more people want to live there. So obviously real estate developers are like, ooh, there's lots of unused land here. Why don't we build houses and shops and parking lots and stuff like that on these open areas, and we can get more people in here and make more money. The problem was they turned that onto your watershed. You built it on your watershed. The reason why Ellicott City had never been flooded this badly was because it had a place to go. All this water would drift to these grassy areas, and it would get sucked into the ground, and it would congeal in that area, and it would be swampy for a while, but you knew that's the watershed. Don't go touching that. You'd walk by, it's like, oh, wow. You might get a little flooding here and there, but nothing like this. We're talking about waves of water washing down the road. If before that, it'd be like, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of water. Like what we had yesterday. We had a big, massive downpour. I was driving down my neighborhood, and there's this big stream of water just going down into the sewers. And then once the rain stopped and I looked out, there was no more stream. It was done. It had burned itself out. And that was what it does. We have an easement behind us. That's why our area doesn't flood. They could have very easily have built up this area behind me, but they didn't because they knew they needed it, and for good reason, because yesterday I posted some pictures on my Instagram that showed that the waters back there from this heavy rainstorm has turned it basically into a lake. Now, it's all receded by now, but when it first all came down, it literally looked like a swampy lake area. And now it looks the way it does now, grasses and trees, stuff like that. So it has receded enough because that's what easements and watersheds do. The building on their watersheds is what's causing these massive floods, because now it doesn't have anywhere to go except down to the streets and wreck and stuff like that. So here's hoping Ellicott City is able to rise up again, and maybe, hopefully, they'll be able to realize that we need to build a watershed somehow again. Ear nails. Now, a couple weeks ago, I showed you a picture of people who were making their nails look like teeth. Well, a couple weeks later, now we've got the newest thing where people are making their nails look like ears. Ear nails. Think about having little ears on your fingers. That is the weirdest thing. I thought teeth were weird. Ears is even weirder. Crazy. Judge rules teenager must pay back $37 million for starting the Oregon wildfire. He started it. It caused $37 million worth of damage. Judge says, guess what, kid? Because you're an idiot, you're going to have to spend $37 million and pay it back, or you're going to go to jail. And we're going to take the money anyway. I'm actually for that. I think that's when people do stupid stuff like that, it's their own fault. Canned wine. This isn't canned wine. This is Kickstarter from Mountain Dew. But my wine fans can now, there's been a new wine that is coming out that's only in cans now. So you can drink it like your beer, except it's wine. And it's probably going to be a lot like this because this is sort of, winey in a type of way. It's a Kickstarter, so it's not quite the same thing. But just think about drinking wine out of something like this. You could take it to baseball games, take it to the beach, put them in cozies, and hang out by the pool, just like you can with beer cans, if they allow you, obviously, to do that stuff. So good on you, canned wine. Let me see. Anything else on the side here that I didn't talk about? Nope, I talked all about that. Let's see. Oh, I'm almost covered all my stuff. Pluto may have formed from 1 billion comets smashing together and doing that stuff. There's been a lot of talk now that they might bring Pluto back into the fold as a planet. I truly believe that. I truly believe that Pluto is our 9th planet, and I've always believed that even after everybody said, no, it's not. I truly believe that, but now they're starting to believe that it might be, might have formed by billions of comets either coming together and forming this. They also revealed that there are dunes on Pluto, which are not sand dunes. They're actually snow dunes. There's dunes. So there's that as well. Chocolate peanut butter pie Oreo is going to be your new summer flavor of the year. Sounds pretty good. It just seemed like it might be the same as their regular chocolate peanut butter flavored ones. But I guess you add pie in there, so I don't know if you're going to add pie pieces to it or whatever. But in the end, it was still pretty good. I think I'll give it a try. Rob Liefeld, who was one of the creators of Image. I talked about Todd McFarlane earlier in the show. Rob Liefeld's another one who helped create Image. I've always had, not a hatred of him, but I just found him kind of irritating because his art style is awful. Though when it first came out in the early 90s, I dug it. But now, older and taking a look at it, it's awful. And also he did that Levi's 501 jeans commercials, which made him seem more like a douchebag when that came out in the early 90s. But of course, you got to give him props. He was a 20-year-old kid who was making a shit ton of money and was getting lots of attention. So of course you're going to be a little bit like that. So now 20 years removed from that, 25 years removed, he's around my same age as I am now. He's sort of softened a little bit. And he's also been considered to be one of the nicest guys you've ever met at a con. There have been people who, despite hatred that people still have for him, and they come and see him at these cons and they declare him the worst artist and they tell him how terrible he is to his face. He keeps a calm demeanor, smiles, and says, "I'm sorry you don't like my work, but it's your opinion, and I'm fine with it. That's what this country's about." He's one of the nicest guys in the world, and everybody says that's good. So I don't hate on him, but he was also kind of irritating to me. So right now he doesn't really mean anything to me. I don't read any of his books anymore, and he doesn't really do a lot of art anyway. But he's still famous now because he did create Deadpool. You got to give him credit for that. Him and Fabian Nicieza created Deadpool, but I think the majority of it was Rob Liefeld, was the guy who developed the idea. Fabian Nicieza might have came up with the general idea of it, but I think the two of them collaborated and created this character. So what he did was, showing a nice guy's side, he bought up all 115 seats at a California movie house for a showing of Deadpool 2, and then went out on the internet and said, "Hey, you want to see Deadpool 2 for free? Come down to this place. I'll give you a ticket." And I'm hoping that was yesterday. I'm hoping that he got enough people to do that as well. Real quick, I read Katie Seagal's biography recently. It took me a couple days to do it. Katie Seagal was Peg Bundy in Married with Children, and also was, I forget her name. It's an interesting name, Gemma on Sons of Anarchy. And it's not your typical biography, but it's well worth it. Instead of a linear telling, this is what I had as a kid, through my first acting job, through my big time career to my family to where I am now, instead of it being a linear like that, she did little snippets of stuff, talked about her mom, talked about her dad, chapters about her mom, chapters about her dad, chapters about her first husband, chapters about her college days, or she has chapters about all three of her kids, one for each, and one chapter for each of her kids, chapter about her new husband, chapter about Married with Children, chapter about Sons of Anarchy, a chapter about what she's done after that and before that, and stuff, and just, you know, like that, and her life as a singer and stuff like that. And it's a really fascinating look at a woman you might not know a lot about. Biographies are my new big thing now. I love reading biographies now. I read Anna Kendrick's not too long ago. I read Anna Faris's not too long ago, and I enjoyed both of them immensely. And now Katie Seagal is another one that's on my list of a really good one, and highly recommended if you like entertainment biography, stuff like that. Oh, good. I think we're down to the final bit. Paul Rudd was originally up for the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, and the Sonic the Hedgehog movie's come out really soon, but James Marsden has been chosen for that. Doesn't mean that Paul Rudd is not going to have a part. He might play a different character, so we'll see on that. My son's a Sonic fan, so when that movie comes out, we will probably watch that. Noah, my son, had his first dance recital on Friday. He was excellent. It was a hip-hop number, and he was fantastic. He owned the stage. He did it perfectly. He looked so grown up out there. And he also became a little bit of a director. When one of the little girls didn't quite know where he was during the show. He's telling them to move forward, move forward, move forward, and helped out with that. So I'm very proud of my son, and I'm glad that he is happy. And now he's thinking about, you know what, I kind of want to do it again, which is what I wanted him to do, because I think it's really cool to do dance, because the dance studio we work at is excellent. So here we are at the 2-hour mark. I'm just going to do my check eye day, and then I'm going to get the heck out of your hair. For those who've seen my usual solo show, you know that I do this type of thing where I'm a big holiday fan, and every day is literally a holiday. It might not be a holiday like a Christmas or a Halloween or a Thanksgiving, but there are weird holidays. I'm going to go over a few crazy ones. Today's holidays, June 3rd, Children's Awareness Memorial Day, Chimborazo Day, don't know what that is, Impersonate Authority Day, Love Conquers All Day, National Cancer Survivors Day, National Child's Day, National Chocolate Macaroon Day, National Egg Day, National Frozen Yogurt Day, National Itch Day, is Repeat Day, is World Clubfoot Day, is Repeat Day, is Repeat Day. That's June 3rd, ending on It's Repeat Day. Yesterday, we had American Indian Citizenship Day, which just sounds awful because they are the original citizens and should not have to apply for citizenship since they were here first. Drawing Day, yes, June 2nd was Drawing Day. June 2nd, I Love My Dentist Day, National Bubba Day, National Cheer Coach Day, National Family Recreation Day, National Gun Violence Awareness Day, National Learn to Row Day, National Rocky Road Day, National Rotisserie Chicken Day. These are all yesterday, June 2nd. National Trails Day, Turtle Races Day, is Yell Fudge at the Cobras in North America Day. That's awesome. Let's see anything interesting on June 1st. There's a whole bunch there, but I just want to see if there's anything silly ones. June 1st was Heimlich Maneuver Day, Hug an Atheist Day. Donut Day was June 1st. Leave the Office Early Day was June 1st. National Resolution Recommitment Day was June 1st. Oscar the Grouch Day. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Wear a Dress Day, World Milk Day. Let's see, the 31st. Anything weird, interesting like that. So that's about, you know, other stuff though. If you want to find out what some of the other ones were and stuff like that, I would go to checkiday.com, CHECKIDAY.com, or type in the same @checkiday on Twitter, and you'll be able to subscribe to their subscribe technically is the right word for it. Subscribe to their Twitter handle so you can see this stuff every day, or look at my Dylan Proco page. I do every day. I release Check ID stuff. So tomorrow's day, let's see that real quick, and then I'll get out of your hair. Come on. Okay, so tomorrow, June 4th, is Thank God it's Monday Day. I don't think anybody says that. Audacity to Hope Day. Well, that's terrible. It's Hug Your Cat Day tomorrow, so hug your cat, definitely. International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression. It's National Cheese Day, National Cognac Day. It's Old Maids Day, June 4th, Shopping Cart Day. So those are all the days you will see tomorrow. So on that note, I think I am done here, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for hanging out with me today, Sunday, June 3rd. Next week, probably going to be more Dylan Knows Solo because Jerry Fletcher, my co-host, is going away on a Spanish vacation to see some soccer stuff. I should say football. Soccer in Europe. Hello. And me and MJ Khan will probably hook up again later this month. So we'll probably another solo thing. So keep an eye out for my Comic Call, which is my other show I do where I talk about all the comic books I pick up. As I said in that show last week, because I had to pay a lot of money for this air conditioning unit that makes this house nice and lovely right now, we are going to have to start cutting back on things. Plus, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff coming up we're going to have to take care of. So I will be cutting down on my comics. I've been saying this for years. I'm going to be doing it. I think now I'm finally going to start looking at it. So I'm going to have to really make some cuts when I take a look at my comic book, what's coming out this week. Tomorrow, I'll have to sit down and say, okay, what am I going to stop reading? What do I still want to read? Or what do I want to stop reading or whatever? And it's going to be hard because I started doing it this past week and it was hard. And then I organized my comics. It's like, oh, I should go get the newest issue. This is like, no, you're not going to read it. So we'll see. Tomorrow is also my daughter's final band concert as an elementary school student. So that should be fun at that. And then this is their play day on June 6th. And then we're going to celebrate my mother-in-law's 70th birthday next Saturday. This past Saturday, the 2nd, was her 70th birthday, so that was great. So thanks for watching. I had one viewer for a long time, but he's like, you know what? I'm done. She spent a long time with me, so thank you. Hope you catch up with the rest of this stuff. Had a couple other viewers in there occasionally, so thank you for watching on that end. And then for all you who are watching on repeat, please continue to watch, retweet, talk about. It might not be the most interesting, but I try to make it interesting. Thanks, guys. Take care and have a great day, great week. And I'll see you next week. It's June. It's my birthday month, June 20th.